and welcome to episode 61 of the barn door restoration. Last episode I did the inner B pillar on the left side. This episode, the right side A pillar is mostly finished. So I did a episode on the left side A pillar. I did that. So I'm not going to talk about the main structure, rebuilding it. There's a few things I want to cover. So on the pasture side A pillar, I'll orient this just to the bus here a bit. So the pasture has a footrest, which is a bar. It goes across and drops down and bolts to the floor. And on the outside end of it, it just goes in this tube. So it's just a small tube. It's probably about 35 millimeters long, welded into the A pillar. And it's just 3 gobs of weld holding it there. Other than that, this is basically the same as a later split. There's really not much difference, I don't think. Earlier barn doors did have a different profile up here. Now the door seal, this channel I didn't cover in the last, when I did the left side. Because I wasn't sure what I was doing, I'd cut out the bad parts, but there was a little bit of swelling in there I didn't like. And I wasn't sure how I was going to butt these up and weld them, if it was going to work. I've since decided to strip that off and put another, replace the whole channel. So I have the channel ready for this side. Now the channel is just basically a channel profile. This narrow strip has a little bit of a lip on it, just hooks in a little bit. There's the door seal, that's just a piece of foam, rectangular foam, goes around the door. And it just sets down in here. So it pushes into this channel, and this little lip kind of hooks it and keeps it from coming out, holds it in there. And this channel just sets down and spot welds to the inner A pillar. Now in the factory, this would have been welded on before the 2 pieces of A pillar went together. But because I can't do that, I'm either going to set up my welder for single-sided spot welding, which I have the stuff to do a test on that, or I'm going to plug weld them. But I'm hoping my spot welder will do single-sided, so I'll try to do that. So this sets in spot welds there. Now there is some notches in it for the hinges. So the hinges go past underneath this channel. On this one, the hinge basically sets in. Is notched down in, so the channel just has basically the back lip removed and sits on. On this end, on the lower one, the hinge is on an angle, so the notch is deeper at the shallow end of the notch and shallow there. So, well, basically it makes a rectangular hole. Now this upper one on a barn door has an extra piece. So to cover this hole here, there's a piece of metal that comes up, in, and then up the inside the channel. So it's a piece of 20 gauge, basically a Z, and it's welded on there and welded inside the channel. And it covers that end of the hinge up. Now later splits don't have that, because the dash when it comes in here covers all that. So if you put your hand in the back of the dash, you can actually feel the end of the hinge. With the barn door, they have a plate on it. In fact, this side, I still have to chop this out and replace it. But the left side still has this plate in, so it just comes up, in, and then up the back side of the channel. I didn't get around to making that. I ran out of time. So, also this channel, when I first started, I thought this was just a long piece with a curve in it. And I thought this was bent, but it wasn't. Well, it was kind of bent, but the original piece of metal had this turn in it. And after they folded it, they did put a bend here to bend it up. The back side had a notch. This side, the front had a notch also, and it was filled in with weld after this bend here was put in. That was tipped up. This was welded in. And here's the original piece off the left side. It was kind of rotten there, but we can see that was one piece of metal here, and you can see on the inside, you can see the notch on the inside lip. But on the outside lip, we can see that it's kind of rough, and in the backside, there's lumps of weld. So I can feel the weld on the backside. So they bent that, and they just filled that with some weld and ground it. Now, I made this in 2 pieces. I thought trying to get this in 1 piece would be a nightmare, and it would be very hard to get the right angle. So I made 2 pieces, and I just set them in the right spot and welded them so I get the right angle in there. One reason I decided to replace these channels completely, is inside this outside lip, this narrow lip. And here's a piece of channel that I folded open, and in that channel, in that outside lip, is very rusty. So it's very deep pitting, a thick rust. It's very thin, and if I tap it with a hammer, I get little pinholes. So the little spots of rust on the outside are actually from the back. So it rusted through, and those little brown spots would knock through. And it wasn't all that apparent until I started tapping along the channel. I had some more here. Must have thrown it out. But anyway, I decided that it wasn't worth trying to save any of it. I just built a whole new channel. Now, I did not weld this on here. There's 2 reasons for that. Well, the first one was I don't have my spot welder set up for single-sided, and I wanted to do a test on that first. So I didn't have time, but in thinking of how I'm going to process the front, put it together, I may have to change the angle of bend here. I'm not 100% confident this is correct. The left and right A-pillars were quite different in this angle. I have a pattern, and I have them basically matching between the pattern. But this part here is quite flimsy, and especially since I changed the inner panel on this one, and the other one, the outer panel I changed, and on that one I changed outer and inner. So I'm not terribly confident. So what I want to do is get these all clamped up in the front, the windshield frame fitted, the nose, the doors fitted, and then I'll be able to tell for sure if this is all perfect. Because it bends, it could be 2 different directions. It could be up or down, or it could be in or out. And it's going to be a lot easier to adjust that without this welded on. So the plan is to fit all the front together, make any adjustments I need to make, and once everything is fitted the way I want it, pull these out and weld these channels in, get them in the correct spot. And I also have to trim the bottoms of them the right length. But I'll be able to, once I have that front clamped up, I'll know exactly where to trim them at. Making this, first off, I decided that it was going to be a nightmare to try and make this as 1 piece and get this angle correct. So I made this in 2 separate pieces. The other thing, the longer your piece is, the harder it is to bend, especially these small edges. And my brake is not perfect, so I want to keep smaller pieces would be easier. So the top piece is just straight, so it just had to be the ends trimmed. It's no big deal. The bottom piece needs a bunch of curves. And the channel, it has this very little, about a 2 millimeter wide, little tip on the edge. It just kind of hooks the foam seal. On these short pieces, they're able to do that in the brake. It would crimp that little edge, because you're only crimping about a millimeter and a half, and bend it, so it worked fine. On this longer piece, it wouldn't do it accurately. Brake is just not quite accurate enough to clamp that narrow an edge that long. So what I ended up doing on these long pieces is I just put it in a tipping die and just run it along about a millimeter and a half in from the edge, and just added that little bit of a tip. That worked really well. And then after that was in, I could put the other 2 bends in with the brake. So once I had the straight sections in, again, this one just needed the ends trimmed, so that was easy. Well, this one is curved, well, it's bent. So there's a curve this way. There's also a little curve back on the top. It's very subtle, but I thought it might have been just a wobble I had here, but no, it actually, both of them had that little curve there. And this one still has that piece in it, so I could see it. It's very, very little, but it's enough when you lay it in there. I could see there was a little bit of a gap. But anyway, it curves this way. It also curves the other way. So this edge here had to be stretched just a little bit to allow it to curve. What I added this curve first, and it's not terribly easy to do. There wasn't a real easy way for me to do that other than just stick it in the vise and yank on it. So I was thinking about making a wooden block that's set in here tight so it would keep it from folding. But I found just put it in the vise and just keep pulling on it. So put it in so it was in the, and just yank on it. Keep sliding it back and forth, giving it a little bit of force. And after a while, it worked that curve into it. I didn't want to go too much at a time or else it would kink it or bend it. And it did try to twist it a bit, but it can easily twist it back. So after a while, I managed to work in that curve. And then it was just a little bit of stretching on this edge to get it to match up perfectly with the pillar. And it runs down this edge here, just sets in about 1 millimeter in from it, and runs on this edge here, about 1 millimeter in. So it's quite easy to get it lined up. So once I had the curve in, trimmed the ends, fitted this, marked the notches for the hinges. Now I will have to trim this end, but I'll do that once it's once I fitted stuff in the front. I'll be able to mark and trim that. I still have just a little bit of work on these. I barely got them finished today, so I just quickly over the sander. But I can see a couple of little low spots because when you're over the sander, it makes those low spots show up really good. So I have like 4 there, and I'll use the hammer and dowel. I get a piece of metal in behind. I can tap that and smooth them right out, sand it again. Now this pillar had basically the same repairs as the other one, except not quite as much. I didn't, on the left side I changed a whole section here. On the right side I only had to change this small piece up here. Partially because of the way the structure in the front of the bus is. On the left side, the driver's side, has 2 beams, one that welds in here and one that welds here. And they support the dash pod. Whereas the passenger side only has 1 up here. And where that was welded on was where it was rusted, so I only had this spot to change. The bottom was rotted off, similar to the other side. This is a piece that came off it. And then up on this section here was rotted out, but not as bad as the left. I was able to save this, and I only had to replace this part up here. And they had drilled in, actually I have that piece. This piece was here. They had drilled holes for a mirror on the right side. Now this didn't come with a mirror on the right side, but they drilled holes in and screwed a mirror on at some point. Because there was no spacer in it, kind of bent this up quite a bit, this inner piece, so I ended up changing. Even though this metal was still fairly good, I wanted to change it up past this bent section in the holes. But this down here was actually rotted out quite a bit. I was able to save the tapping plates that are in here with the hinges bolted into. Both were good. On the left side, they were quite rotten. That side had a lot more water coming down through it, and it rotted them out quite a bit. So on this side, they were still savable. I had a few bolts I had to weld on and turn out, but I ground them flush and then welded on the back side and pulled them out. That way it wouldn't be pulling the rust through the threads. So I'm quite happy with how these pillars come out, but doing it again, I would do it differently. So these pillars are 2 different pieces, an inner and outer, spot welded together, spot welded down these lips. And then there's a few structure in here that's welded in. If I was doing this again, I would split these into separate pieces, restore them, and spot weld them back together. The reason I didn't is because once you take these two pieces apart, they become very flimsy. And to get the right curve, the twist, well, you'd have to have a jig. Now, I could have done that. I could have made a jig. If I was doing this again, I would make a jig. I would make a jig to hold this and clamp to the lip in about 4 different spots. Maybe 5 spots might go here and here. So basically it would lay in and clamp down. That way I could separate the parts, rebuild them, make sure they fit in the jig as I went. And then reassembly, I could clamp this off in the jig and then spot weld it. Now what I've done is perfectly fine. But part of me would like to have the welds in here ground from the backside. Kind of silly, but there's a few things like when I welded the last pieces in, there's no way to finish from the back. Also not great trying to get, now I was able to spray zinc paint down through this and in it as I was working on it, but there's still areas that are be burnt metal in there from welding. So if I was doing it again, I would make a jig, split them apart, rebuild the parts, and then spot weld them together after. That would also solve this issue of trying to spot weld that on, because I could have spot welded that on that piece before putting the 2 sides together. Anyway, it's not a big deal. It's just that if I was doing it again, I would definitely do these in 2 pieces. And I think it would probably be about the same amount of time, because some of this would be faster to do when you could work from both sides of it. For instance, removing this old channel, this panel in here is ripply from the old spot welding. And that was quite difficult to get it down flat again when I couldn't put a dolly from the back side. I had to very gently tap it, and it would just slowly work it back down flat. Whereas if it was the 2 pieces, I could just put it on the metal behind it and just flatten it right out. And welding it would be easier. But anyway, I am happy with how they come out, so I'm not too worried about it. So that is what I've accomplished for this episode. I was hoping to have both pillars completely finished, but I didn't get enough time to get the left side one done. It doesn't need much work, it just needs a patch in here and the old channel removed and cleaned up. The next episode, well, I'm not going to get any progress done because we're hitting the road with the 64 bus again for another 10 days. So what I'm going to do is make a video and talk about how things are going, where things are at, and where I'm going forward, how I'm putting stuff together, how I'm going to do the floor, the walls, basically what the plans are over the next year. I did the same sort of episode last year this time because I run the same issue. You know, I try to get an episode ahead, but I never do. So I remember the night before I released my video, I'm here filming this. So next video, I'm just going to be talking about, should be fairly short, talking about my plans, how things are going. The episode after that, there'll be things in the front, so that'll be fun. I suspect it'll take 2 episodes to get the front welded up, because I may have to do a lot of fitting. I don't know how well this is going to go. I may have to adjust these slightly, which is not hard to do, but it may require taking things apart and putting things back up many times. So it depends on how it goes, and I have to get the doors out and stuff like that. So anyway, next episode, we're just talking about what's going on, and the one after that will be back into progress. That wraps things up. Thanks for the comments. I appreciate them, and thanks for watching.